Hello, sisters and cousins. This is Esmée Streachailt. I am reading Militant Women, the Yes of Feminist Negation for Medusa Rising. This essay is going to talk about the Kurdish people, the Lions of Rojava, and also an organization called Jane's Revenge here in the United States, and do a little thinking about the value of militancy. A quick little correction to add here. One, I refer to the Rojava militants as the YPJ in the first paragraph where I introduced them. This is incorrect. They are referred to as the YPK. My apologies to the Kurds. And I reference also, I reference a bunch of things, but I also reference Helen Lewis's recent article on Substack, and there's a series of interviews with her on YouTube on her research about the manosphere. And I think maybe in the book, I can't remember now because a lot has happened. So that's what that reference is, because it's a little hazy actually in the reading. Things are a little weird around here as I am going home to help support my mom for a little while. She's got herself an infection, needs a lot of attention, and has a complex home that needs a lot of care. So I am going to be making this up as I go here for a little while. Also, apologies for the sound in this recording. It's super gnarly, and I don't have time to fix it. So bear with. It gets better toward the end. Thanks. The feminist no opens a conversation about the future, even in armed conflict, even in political extremism. The patriarchal no shuts down the future. Liberation movements all say yes to another world. And while this essay does not recommend violent action, it is recommending direct action. This essay contemplates the possibility, the uses of militancy among the many pathways to a living future. So, part one is Rojava. The Kurds live divided by men's grids and national borders. One people, 4 countries, and under threat in all of them. Like the Basque or the Catholic Northern Irish or the Palestinians in Palestine, any occupied people. Some are willing to use property destruction and or deadly violence in the name of their liberation. Like rogue or terrorist organizations such as Hamas, the Kurds benefit from extra national support, that is, support from outside of their country and beyond their people. But it's very conditional on those other nations' agendas and never really enough to actually liberate Kurdistan. Linked here is an article by the Kurdish Peace Institute, Woman, Life, Freedom, from Rojava to Streachailt, Connections and Solidarities. Gina Masha Amini was a Kurdish woman. Woman, Life, Freedom. The YPJ is an all-female military unit that had been developing along with the Rojava region's robust egalitarianism in the context of the Syrian civil war. But the YPJ gained most of their international attention for their success against ISIS in Syria. The YPJ is also labeled as a terrorist organization by Erdogan's government in Turkey. An apocryphal story I picked up in those years told that the women of the YPK each carried a bullet in their chest pocket with their own name carved on it. They had vowed to kill themselves and some to kill their daughters, rather than let them be taken into slavery by ISIS. These women took feminism or death for a law in the context of the total subjugation ISIS intended for them. For religious and political power reasons, all of the regimes under which Kurdish women live are threats to their well-being and their lives. This is, as we know, true in more and less formal legal ways for women everywhere. But in Rojava,
I'm quoting here, despite conditions of constant war and isolation, the people of Rojava building and defending a society rooted in principles of direct democracy, women's autonomy, cultural diversity, cooperative economics, and social ecology. This from the Bioneers website. They are building something that can easily become matricultural. And with women having the militarist skills of men, what they are building is less likely to degrade back into patriarchy than otherwise. Here there's an article, Rojava Revolution, Women's Liberation, Democracy, and Ecology in Northeastern Syria. Another quote from the article. There are obvious reasons, ideological reasons, why, say, the Wall Street Journal isn't tripping over itself to tell you all about this movement that's trying to make corporations and the state obsolete. They might want you to see this picture of the women in the article with the scarf and the AK-47. That's compelling, and it'll get you to click on their articles. But the people talking about how to create a direct democracy to overcome patriarchy and capitalism, that's another thing. That is what is being practiced in Rojava, is a model for moving into matriarchy. Something I've noticed about women in ancient Crete, where war was heard of but not practiced, and the women of the YPK, the Rojava region, is that they are regal. They are confident, relaxed. They are easy in their own skin, sovereign in the sense of self-determining. Women in ancient Crete jumped bulls with the men. Archaic hunter burials found have been re-examined, and half of them have been found to be female hunters in the Paleolithic and Mesolithic eras. This would have been true probably all the way through the Neolithic Revolution, the agricultural revolution. The sling, the atlatl, and the rifle are all levelers of physical advantage, and all are still in production. There's a family I linked to here that make atlatls. Why would I reference such dated, indeed too prehistoric hunting weapons? Because facility with the tools of group defense and food provision are physical skills that coordinate both bodies and communities, and that result in that regal confidence of free women. The women of Rojava have opened a conversation with the world. They spiral over the grids of nations and corporations that seek to divide them. They have said no to even benevolent patriarchy. They have said yes to women, life, freedom. Here I've got you an article called Negotiating What It Means to Be Free, Gender Equality in Governments in North and East Syria, from the NCBI database. So please check that out. It's a gorgeous, academic-y but gorgeous study. So that's Rojava, right? Women stepping into their physical power, stepping into their democratic power next to their men and becoming free, even under the conditions where the Kurds live, which is constant threat and total political disempowerment. The U.S., meanwhile, here I have an image of a boarded up door. On it has been painted the phrase, "If abortion isn't safe, neither are you." Jane's revenge. The U.S. regime's health agencies think white U.S. women are, quote, underbabied, unquote. That's fucking cute, isn't it? That rhetorical flourish, underbabied. The country is over-trumped. Men's sperm counts are dropping globally, but it's the women not letting the babies come forth to labor for the owners and rentiers. It could not be the microplastics, the PFAS, the general degradation of the planet and ecology that capitalists call GDP, and so on. Couldn't be that. Couldn't be that men have become like almost professionally insufferable in most corners of the social world. What's needed to fix this, of course, is for women to shut up, have babies, and make sandwiches. A formula Helen Lewis has reported MAGA men think will make women happy and contented. Dr. Oz and Secretary Kennedy being two of those men. There's a link here to interview about Helen Lewis's recent book on MAGA masculinity. There's also a link here to an article called The Janes. This is the documentary about the Janes who organized to provide women with abortions in Chicago in the 1960s and 70s. This was illegal. This was arrestable offenses. This was a federal crime. And these women organized a complex and very successful underground to provide women medical care. That was in the 1960s, up until 1973, when Roe v. Wade legalized abortion. So, in the year of our Lord, 2026, women are taking matters into our own hands again. Rather than the Janes, we have Jane's Revenge, which is barely even a network, but it is willing to both graffiti and sometimes firebomb anti-abortion pregnancy centers. These are run by Christians who convince women to keep their babies and then do nothing to support them, really. What's impressive about this campaign, Jane's Revenge, is not its law-breaking property damage, but that it operates underground enough to show up only in news stories after an action. The response to these actions has been enormous, really weighed against the disinterest of the U.S. has shown in women's prenatal and maternity care, or even survival. Home invasions, assassinations, the threat of death, threats to children, swatting, and now alleging child abuse against a gay former Marine who speaks 8 languages and has a real shot at the presidency are regular practice on the U.S. right. At this point, random citizens terrorizing public officials passes nearly unremarked, but leave a public trace, a graffiti tag that reads, "If abortions aren't safe, then neither are you," and all hell breaks loose. Mind you, anti-abortion terrorism in the United States, in its Wikipedia article, has to be broken out into categories, and in this Wikipedia article, totals 82 incidents and at least 11 deaths committed by various groups and individuals in the name of quote-unquote pro-life movements. 82 incidents. In The Intercept, there's an article, Beyond Revenge. What does Jane's Revenge want? What they want is for women to have access to care that saves our lives and allows us to operate as individual, sovereign human beings. Responses to political shifts like Jane's Revenge are controversial. Does it help women's cause for fake clinics to operate in fear? For women to be arrested for violent direct action that's really just minor property damage? What is the relative effectiveness of image projection over, let's call it, vibe projection? Sure, nonviolent movements have greater success rates than violent ones. I agree. That's part of this debate. But they always get less than they demand. And they have never succeeded without that shadow, that other movement stalking the horizon. The people who have their hands around the throat of our republic are not going to let go. They can't. They have committed so many crimes, ignored so many laws, shredded so much of the Constitution, and destroyed so many lives that there is no safety for them outside of power. They will only escalate and bear down. This is why we have to think mean. The next major step to secure their hegemony is the SAVE Act, which I reminded us of while cheering for democracy last weekend in a podcast. There's a link here. It's brilliant conversation. Sarah Jekyll is visionary. Jane's Revenge are responding to the entrapment of women, to the deaths of women, to the tragedies visited on families by a renewed patriarchal assertion that is wholly a choice born of resentment, avarice, sadism, and twisted desires. Roe has always been a thin veil of protection. No law, no judicial precedent can stand against all three branches of the federal government working in concert, both by action and by omission, to advance domination by a high-tech Christo-capital fascist reassertion of feudal orders and powers. As I have said before, we need to think mean. We need to think ahead of these men and their minions. There's an article from Newsweek, What is Jane's Revenge? Abortion rights group vows night of rage over Roe. A night of rage. So scary. As the UK government escalated pressure on the suffragists, some of them escalated right back. The Women's Social and Political Union, the WSPU, led by figures like Emmeline Pankhurst, carried out roughly 250 bombings and arson attacks between 1912 and 1914. Remembered more for his MLK Jr.-like later years, Nelson Mandela was more Malcolm X in his younger days. I mean, there is a reason that they put him in prison. Also, responding to increasingly violent pressure from states, he founded the Spear of the Nation, the militant wing of the ANC, which carried out a campaign of economic sabotage and targeting of infrastructure. He was imprisoned for resisting South African apartheid, but he was also imprisoned for, well, these days we call it terrorism. Biden's Justice Department, however, went after Jane's Revenge. There's an article here from Rolling Stone. Jane's Revenge, Biden's Justice Department uses abortion access law to indict pro-choice vandals in an irony that makes me want to kind of stab my eyeballs out. The Christian nationalist abortion bans have killed an estimated 59 to 68 women so far that we know of, and further studies have estimated that for every maternal death, there are approximately 100 cases of severe maternal morbidity. Severe maternal morbidity, that is, unbelievable risk to health to women. So that's around 6,800 women who have been severely traumatized along with their infants because we want to save the babies. 6,800 women severely traumatized in the process of giving birth to the children that ostensibly they want. All of this, for God and country. Jane's Revenge reopened the conversation about abortion, but also about militant action. It said basically, no, we want a future in which women don't die like this, a future where children are not born in deep trauma, a future where women are people and people are treated like the precious expressions of life that we are. Yes, that no comes with a warning. Keep creating risk for us, and we will create risk for you. But the goal is differently oriented because the motive is differently vectored. Jane's Revenge doesn't want to harm for power's sake, to harm these people or their buildings in order to force them to have abortions. They use the harm for women's sake because abortions save lives. Abortion enables the future. Still, not recommending violence. Definitely thinking about direct action. Just pointing, ruminating. 250 years is the clock. The Heritage Foundation and some other crackpots with power have published 168 pages detailing their designs on resubjugating women to men at every level of society and culture by the 500th anniversary of the U.S.'s founding. Helen Lewis also does not miss this point and takes it as seriously as it was proposed. Fuck that. No, sir. Do not pass go. Do not collect all that sweet anonymous donor money. I mean, unique patriarchal social orders and civilizations don't tend to last that long. So this is all very bold. They tend to collapse every couple of 100 years. Something falls apart. People die. Still, they are serious and they are quite manifestly powerful. Women, however, have other plans. And whatever amplitude those plans carry, from personal withdrawal to militant underground, we have to beat that 250-year clock every step of the way. Feminism or death? The future is feminist. Death before coverture. So to the matriarchy and beyond, here I turn to address man, capital M. It's enough with the shenanigans, right? Enough redefining basic ontological concepts to erase women. Enough loud, frightened braggadocio to convince yourself that you're man enough. Enough killing us in the name of life. Enough flaccid, nudifying women you'll never actually see naked with any enthusiasm. Enough aggro Jesus hype. Enough sadism. Enough resting your entire power structure on the ever-present background threats of rape that are the context of women's lives. Enough. Basta. New worlds are built on the ruins of old ones. The ideological ruins and the physical ruins, but also on the bones of their people. That's the process men have preferred for 5,000-ish years. Building on the ruins, building on the bones. They are good at it, but at very little else at that scale. Matriarchy does civilization better. It's the one spark of hope I carry now, that so many young women are taking their feminism in a matriarchal direction. More and more, all of the evidence is pointing to matriarchal structures and practices resulting in a more livable, happier, pro-social, and crucially, much more endurable civilizations. With sourdough bread and everything. All the way back to Catalhoyuk. Lovely article here in Al Jazeera about the matrilineal society at Catalhoyuk. Let us settle that debate for once and all. From around 9,000 BCE to 5,700 BCE, that's nearly 4,000 years, or over 4,000 years, the Ubaid civilization thrived, and Catalhoyuk thrived in particular. 4,300 years, a civilization in the same spot. That, cousins, is sustainability. Not collapse, not revolution, not constant overthrow, jealousy, competition, murder, replacement of systems, etc. A continuous, matriarchal, orderly, enjoyable, we assume, culture that lived in one place for 4,300 years. We have not yet created a single civilization that has lasted anywhere near that long out here in patriarchy world. To return to that world is impossible. To recreate it faithfully is probably foolish. But to constitute new matriarchies, beginning in these high-tech times, I like to call this a hyperlithic condition, maybe a matriocene, a new geological era, a matricultural future, demands that we take it as seriously as the Heritage Foundation has taken realizing the fictional Gilead. They say facts don't care about your feelings. Well, feelings, here are the facts. Humans evolved in woman and child-centered, care-based social systems of cooperation and deep social bonding. We lived like this for most of our 300,000 years, and our ancestors controlled fire for 100,000 years before that. We've been farming for 9,000 years. Women hunted the mammoth too. All of the truly essential to life technologies that were invented in this matriarchal and matricultural world that organized everywhere its year astronomically, even in the Paleolithic, and that honored life and death in its many avatars of the goddess. Those are facts. They give me very good feelings. They give me feelings that feel like they could be hope. They aren't debatable. They aren't things I need to link to or prove. You can Google all that all by yourself and find it. Those are facts. But those are also the past. We are here now with our cousins, our lovers, our children, and a very powerful opposition. We have a nonviolent political movement in matriarchy now. We have blogs and newsletters and books and courses and many experts we should support and learn from. We have music and festivals and each other. And we have some decisions to make about how we're going to proceed from here. Do we help reclaim and reinforce liberal democracy so that we get a chance to move beyond patriarchy? What to do with all this godlike technology? How to organize our social worlds for care and well-being? What aspects of matriculture to phase in and when? How to bring others along with us? What to do if they won't come? To work together or not? Network? Confederate? How best to connect each other across the globe? What to do when they come for us, because they will come for us? Do you want to win the future? What are you willing and able to do to liberate women? The feminist no opens a conversation about the future. The feminist yes is our negation. How hard do we want to play for ourselves on our own behalf? Stay witchy out there. Stay hydrated. Take naps. Be careful with your body. This is a very, 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 very long, hard time we are in. Be good to each other. And I will see you or talk to you and hope to hear from you next time.